Welcome, everybody, back to the Let's Talk Computer Science podcast, a podcast dedicated to talking about the past, present, and future of computer science. This podcast is made possible by our friends at Rex Academy. Be sure to check out their amazing CS platform, including courses on cybersecurity, app development, and everybody's buzzword these days, AI. Don't have a teacher? Not a problem. Rex Academy is now providing instructors, virtual instructors, as part of their platform. Be sure to check out their platform at rex.academy. And today, I'm excited to have on the Let's Talk CS podcast, Dr. Cathay Collins. She's a library media specialist out of Boston, the Boston area. Sharon, right? Sharon Public Schools? Yep.
Correct.
Also, ISTE ASCD board of directors, curriculum consultant, Fulbright fellow, MassQ board member, or from the past, a MassQ board member. Just looking at your LinkedIn bio, I don't know how you sleep, Cathy.
It's a challenge.
So many hats to wear there. But just a full disclosure, Cathy and I actually connected on K-12 Leaders, which is a platform I mentioned on this podcast, I think before, a social platform that she and I are both on, and then full transparency, I'm a co-founder of. But I thought it was great that Cathy and I were able to connect that way, but we've run into each other several times over the years. And of course, all your interactions with ISTE, I just appreciate you being on the podcast. Tell me a little bit though, because you were just at the ASCD conference, I believe, in Denver, correct?
Yes, it was amazing. My first actually ASCD conference, now that ISTE and ASCD are merging, and it was super exciting. I love Denver anyway, love the mountains, and just to be, oh my gosh, in the buzz of all that energy. We had a chance to explore the vendor hall early on, and I also want to add the quality of the keynote presentations was just, I had tears in my eyes, which
wow.
As you know, rarely, well, it's not every day that happens.
No, when you're moved, that's a big, who was the keynote?
Oh my gosh. So Dr. Michelle Borba was my favorite and most inspirational. And her most recent book is Thrivers, all about teaching kids resilience, and it is teachable, and we need to do more of that. And as you know, 1 out of 3 of our kids right now, post-COVID, is suffering from mental health issues. So she just absolutely inspired me. I ran home, ordered the book, and I'm already starting a community book club on Thrivers.
Well, we'll be sure to put that in the show description notes, and I'm going to check that book out as well. I, of course, big fan of the resilience, the failure, the risk taking, all of that. So she's speaking my language. I need to check out her book and check out more of her work. So that's awesome. Is there anything behind this? Well, you can't really tell us much behind the scenes, but I know ISTE and ASCD, that was a big announcement that came out last year, at the end of last year. And I talked to Richard a little bit about this too. And there's still lots of stuff happening. We know that at some point they'll probably do some renaming, rebranding that's going to come in whatever time. I said, whatever you do, just don't take the letters and mix them all up each one, like AISSCDTE. No.
One of our agreements, Carl, is no acronyms. So that was
wow.
As our boards are.
You heard it here first, folks. That's it.
I think I'm allowed to share at least that.
Okay, that's huge. No, it's not. That's great. And apparently you ran into a few folks that I know as well. You mentioned that you saw my lovely co-host from the Undisrupted podcast, Dr. Adam File, who's also an ISTE board member and now works with Future Ready Schools.
Yes.
And Marlon.
I was told to give the special keyword knuckles.
Oh boy. Yes. So now all of you listeners to this podcast who don't know the reference to that podcast, but if you go listen to the Undisrupted podcast, Adam has a let's just say an affinity for his knuckles, and so we've gone on record as saying that we're going to start an OnlyHands, not OnlyFans, an OnlyHands account just for him. That's just his knuckles in very let's say risque positions, knuckles on the beach, knuckles, sitting in the snow. Yeah. Anyway.
My friends at ASCD and ISTE know that I have always had a secret childhood desire now it's not secret, to be a CIA agent. And so code words, I was all over that. I was very excited.
That is awesome.
Share code words. Yes.
Yeah. If you listen to now, I gave this group the whole explanation, but that podcast people listen to, it'll be like, what? Why does he keep almost every episode? There's at least one little Easter egg reference to his knuckles. So now you got it. Thank you, Cathy, for dropping that in. Let's talk a little computer science and digital literacy, because I like your lens. You're coming to us from a library and media specialist lens, which is kind of nice. We've had a lot of the coding, the CS teachers on the show, CTE, but really, the more that I've talked to a lot of these folks on the podcast, we see that computer science is really everywhere, and it kind of drops into every bucket. Give us just like your first of all thoughts, like digital literacy. How does this all fit together with computer science from the lens of a librarian?
Yeah. So, well, as you know, there's been a huge drive to, matter of fact, in Massachusetts, my state, we now have a computer science and digital literacy science credential. So it's not just about the coding, it's the digital literacy piece that is really key. And, looking at not just how to code, but how to decode, which of course is 100% what library media specialists focus on in their library spaces and classrooms, is teaching students how to evaluate information. Well, so now we're just taking that one step further. As students are learning this new language of coding, it's not enough just to teach them the coding language. We also have to teach them how to decode. What are we doing with the code as they look at code? What is this code ethical? Is this code going to help the world and change it for the better, or do we need to rewrite that code? As innovators and social change agents.
Right.
So that's my lens where I see it. I actually started my career as a reporter and then fell into being a librarian. And so, then, and as you already mentioned, I like to have my fingers in a bunch of different pies at once. And so this was a natural next step then, as computer science became more and more in demand to be taught in our classrooms. I went for that license, and I'm just fascinated about that intersection between computer science, journalism, and digital literacy. And those three parts of a triangle are all equally important.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the state of Massachusetts has these credentials out there. They're the kind of the standards that they're putting out. I'm always curious because there's several other in New York and Illinois. I've spoken to a few other states. Utah's doing some different things. What kind of supports do they have? Does the state do? Or because in Texas, what ends up happening sometimes is like, here's a mandate from the state, and good luck, figure it out. Meanwhile, and a lot of it falls on our library media specialists sometimes to figure out how to support these, and they've already kind of been pressed for time. What does it look like? Is the state offering any type of supports or any courses, anything that they can do to bring people kind of up to date on things?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. So yeah, actually, I'm part of it's a DLCS District Leaders Network, and so we've been talking about exactly that. How do we, now that we have this new license, but how do we focus on equity? We're not there yet, and how do we go about this? So our actual focus this year has been on advocacy and implementation, and we meet regularly to discuss the questions. So we don't have it all ironed out yet, but certainly I'd say that anyone out there who is interested in learning more about the new license and the new direction for computer science in our state should consider joining that leadership network.
Okay, awesome. And I'll get that, folks, also in the show notes. Kathy, I'll follow up with you on that so we make sure that our listeners can have an opportunity to see more about that. You mentioned ethics, and I think this is interesting because I think we've talked, I don't know, about every podcast or webinar in the last 3 months. The word that's come up over and over again is AI, and I imagine it was probably brought up a little bit at the ASCD conference too. I know it'll be on the tip of everyone's tongue at ISTE Live in Philly this June. What how does give us your first blush thoughts on AI just in general? I don't want to pitch my side of things because I want to hear you just kind of unblush. What are your thoughts on let's say generative AI, because AI of course has been around for a long time, but this new kind of chat GTP generative AI model, thoughts on that when it comes to literacy and all that?
I think it's actually very exciting, and I know there are always, as with any new technology, oh no, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt our world. Or, it's a new unknown. But similarly to every technology that's come about, this can be used for good or for bad. It's a tool. So again, teaching our students. So actually, I'm thinking about Chat GPT specifically, and how NPR did a story recently about a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and his name is Ethan Mullick. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he actually encourages his students to use Chat GPT, as I think we should, but he has two requirements. So they have to disclose that they're using it, of course, course and acknowledging when and how. And then they also are responsible for any errors or omissions
Ooh,
provided by the tool. So again, from my lens as a library media specialist, this winds up being a fabulous opportunity to teach media literacy, right? Because, we have to fact check. Our students now have to fact check the bot's work, and if and provide a list of references. Where is this coming from? I think that's really important. And then again, talking more about AI, there's this character AI you could use for interview practice. So, from my journalist lens, what a great tool, right? For students to, before they go out into the field, to have some mock interviews with character AI. So, there's all these opportunities now for just, again, enhanced learning. It's how you use the tool.
the journalist lens is coming out there. I see it right there. Yeah, I love it. I think that's kind of my take on it. And I've spoken to lots of people about this, and I like the idea that um, there's going to be kind of a different. We talked about, you mentioned equity earlier. There's going to be a little bit of a gap now where potentially you'll have humans that just do kind of regular everyday things, and then there's humans that do things with AI as a kind of an additive feature. So that gap could also happen where, like, some schools, like we saw in New York City Public Schools, ban it completely. Even, and I think there's some age restriction there, so they're kind of safe with that. But I do think just not talking about it at all is probably not the right answer either. Give me You mentioned equity, like I said earlier. What are your thoughts kind of around that? And we'll say kind of broader, not just AI, but let's just say on the CS space in general, computer science. Where are you seeing in Massachusetts, and all the work that you're doing? Where do you see that kind of that falling? Is there some groups that aren't having access to it, or they're just not really being encouraged to go into it? What do you see in Massachusetts?
Well, again, what we need to do in Massachusetts is right now even the playing field as far as the course offerings. So, not every school offers a computer science course, and then who is taking that course. So, as with technology courses in general, we need to make sure that girls and minorities, all of the left out voices are invited into that space, that learning space, to receive a fair shot at learning computer science. And so, yeah, there's a huge drive for equity, not only in Massachusetts, of course, looking nationwide. At the need to level the playing field for computer science education.
And I feel like a library media specialist has kind of a unique viewpoint of that, because you also, now you have access to all the students versus the students that just choose computer science classes if they have them. Like you said, some schools don't even offer them. So
Yeah.
how do you help that? Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked me that, Carl. So, yes, so I see every sixth grade student in my middle school. And so I integrate coding into all of the media literacy learning that I'm doing. And so, for example, and I love project-based learning. I love
Yes.
creativity, and learning is where my heart's at. So, and I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Dan Ryder and design
I
thinking.
love Dan. Yep.
All of these things are very easily woven together, and I love that. So it's like a cookbook. What am I going to have my students cook up today? And so coding a poem, for example, or creating a newscast, create a newscast. I think it's through code.org. There's a template already there. It's very simple to have them jump in and use their own creativity to feature themselves, which they love. It's all about them in a
Yes.
newscast. And they're learning coding, they're learning broadcast journalism, and it's all woven together and fits right into my library standards. So it's library standards, ISTE standards. It's all, as I said, just one big potpourri.
Checking all those boxes. But what I also love about that, what you just, yeah,
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, but it also engages them, right? So,
right.
they don't wanna learn just when you take a bunch of subjects, mesh them together, and let them run with it, give them a project idea and just let them run with it, I find those are my best, most engaging classes.
Yeah, and I think I feel like over and over again in all these interviews I've been doing, I see like there's a bit of a publicity problem that computer science has, because I think in our minds, when we think computer science and coding, we imagine the person standing in front of a matrix screen just typing away, right, with like a hoodie on or something. And and I think the reality is what you just mentioned. is a collaborative, project based, and if you're not, maybe you're not the kid who wants to be on the screen, but you're the kid who wants to run the little banners and the graphic ads for the newscast, or wants to write the script, or do some of the back end research. All of those play a part in this collaborative project versus the, again, single lone coder sitting in a basement somewhere, right? Stay still very long from what I gather. But speaking of which, where can people learn more about you and your great work? Now, I understand are you working on a book right now?
I am. It's called Empowering Students Through News Literacy, and I'm very excited about it. And I will share more about that down the road. But I will just say, yes, it's all about what we're talking about here, a focus on helping students to decipher, in the world of the vast world of misinformation and fake news, teaching them the strategies they need to be successful in navigating our current landscape, which is fraught with misinformation.
Oh yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
now we add the lens of avatars and deep fakes and AI and everything else that could come into it. So now we've really got to be super careful of what we see. Where else? Well, where else can we contact you? Is there yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a huge social media user, of course, and so you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Cathay Collins, and let's see, LinkedIn. I'm out there, here and there, and everywhere. I can throw in my email, ccollins at sharonschools.net. Happy to receive. Yeah, I love answering questions. I'm pretty accessible, so I'd say those were your three main starting points there. You can find me through the ISTE and ASCD boards as well at this point.
And she's also Dr. Cathy Collins on K-12 Leaders.
Yes. Oh, thank you for mentioning that. I love our new platform, as the Twitter world has been sort of
Yeah.
fraught with challenges. This new platform, which I'm 100% supportive of, and I'm involved on the Women Leaders in K-12 group. There's also a K-12 Readers group. Again, that's my librarian hat. Love sharing new books. So yeah, there's another place to find me.
Thank you. Well, of course, I'm going to make you mention it, but no, I do appreciate your interaction on there too, and I think that's what's kind of neat about social media in general, not just our platform, but just in general, is that we can connect and find people. And so, yeah, obviously with that platform, it's more like let's keep the noise out as much as we can from the outside world, and keep our little educators together so we can band together through whatever challenges face us next. But thank you, Cathy, for being a part of the Let's Talk Computer Science, and thanks again to our friends, at Rex Academy for making this podcast possible. Be sure to check out their platform at rex.academy. We all know technology will be a part of our future, and as educators, leaders, and librarians, it's our role to make sure that all of our students have an opportunity in that future as well. This is Carl Hooker signing off.